it's fundamental for us to understand this, because if we think we can patch a system up that failed, it's not going to work. We have to come to the realization that there is a sea change in what's happening. This is an end of an era, and that we can't reinflate the bubble. Just as we devised a new system of Bretton Woods in '44, which was doomed to fail, it failed in '71, and then we came up with the dollar reserve standard, which was a paper standard. It was doomed to fail, and we have to recognize that it has failed. And if we think we can reinflate this bubble by artificially creating credit out of thin air and calling it capital, believe me, we don't have a prayer of solving these problems. We have a total misunderstanding of what credit is versus capital. Capital can't come from the thin air creation by a Federal Reserve System. Capital has to come from savings. We have to work hard, produce, live within our means, and what is left over is called capital. This whole idea that we can recapitalize markets by merely turning on the printing presses and increasing credit is a total fallacy. So the sooner we wake up to realize that a new system has to be devised, the better. Right now, I think the central bankers of the world realize exactly what I'm talking about, and they're planning. But they're planning another system that goes one step further to internationalize regulations, internationalize the printing press, give up on the dollar standard, but we have to be very much aware that that system will be no more viable. We have to have a system which encourages people to work and to save. What do we do now? We're telling consumers to spend and continue the old process. It won't work.
The gentleman from Delaware, Mr. Castle, is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Ranking Member Backus, and I want to thank you for holding today's hearing and to thank...
All right, this is not going as planned.
No, it is not.
We were told it would be a very limited number of opening statements. And it seems to be getting out of control.
Here's what we forgot. Everybody's taking this live. And you know what that means? Why would they miss an opportunity for free airtime?
All right,
Guess
so
what? We're taking a break.
We're going to take a commercial break, get them out of the way so that when something really substantive is happening, we don't have to interrupt then. We'll be right back. What do you think gold is saying?
Well, you know, first of all, you just described the U.S. market as being bulletproof, and I think gold is telling us that it's about to get shot full of holes. The housing market is just beginning to unravel. We're seeing the tip of the iceberg here in the mortgage sector, but probably...
How do you put together all this gloom and doom? What data tells you this, Peter?
Well, aren't you looking at the news reports coming out of the mortgage market?
I'm in the middle of it, yeah.
Yeah, aren't you looking at the glut of houses on the market for sale with no buyers and the collapse in the subprime market?
Well, I wouldn't call it a collapse in the subprime market. There's been some difficulty in the subprime market.
Well, it's just starting.
I'm also looking at housing prices, which have had an orderly decline. I'll tell you something that makes a lot of sense to me. You talk about the collapse of the NASDAQ and that incredible bear market that we had. Those are usually once-in-a-lifetime events. And you're suggesting that in very short order, less than 10 years later, we're going to have another one?
Well, in a different asset class, sure, in real estate.
Those who aren't familiar with you, this has been your prediction for how many decades now?
Well, not decades, but it's certainly been my prediction for the last 7 or 8 years, and I've been dead on right.
You have?
Sure. Look what's happened since 2000.
So I think as more and more people are starting to see that Wall Street is conning them, you know, and hey, if these guys can be so wrong about Enron, so wrong about WorldCom, so wrong about Cisco or any of these companies that were so heavily touted, why can't they be wrong about the whole thing? About what they're saying about the economy, about what they're saying about the market? And they are wrong. All they're trying to do is sell stocks. But I can tell you now, as we speak, the U.S. dollar has hit a new low for the year, and I think this last bull market in the dollar, which went from 1995 to the present, is over. So the market is still extremely overvalued, and don't believe the propaganda. And that's what it is. When you're listening to an analyst on a lot of these popular financial shows, or the mainstream Wall Street firms, you're not getting investment advice. You're getting propaganda.
very shocking documents that I saw at the Library of Congress had to do with the hearings of the McCormick-Dickstein Committee of November 1934. Show that Prescott Bush and the DuPont family, the Remington family, and J.P. Morgan tried to overthrow the U.S. government, assassinate FDR, and put a Hitler-style fascist state in place.
That Prescott Bush was actually the head Nazi agent in the U.S. The McCormick-Dickstein committees exposed this. The guy that was about to be the Marine Corps Commandant, Brigadier General Smedley Butler, they tried to hire him to overthrow the government and set up a fascist dictatorship. So to see Bush even calling it Homeland Security, it was Fatherland Security there, setting up a Homeland Security, which is the Gestapo/SS. I mean, they're really going down the line.